Hi everybody, I'm Joe Parker of the Pixel Depot. Model railroaders are a creative bunch, not only with the miniature worlds we create, but also how we look at products to find ways that we can make use of them in our modeling that might not be the way that they were designed. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the ways I've used Lego as a modeling tool, so stick around. This channel covers model railroading, including planning, hints, tips, how-tos, and updates. To stay up to date, click on the subscribe button. Also, click on the bell so you'll get notified when there's new content available. And as always, if you click on the thumbs up to like this video now, you won't have to worry about it later. I use Lego in a number of ways in my video on scratch building the main building for Cambridge Iron and Metal, and there were so many comments on the use of Lego itself rather than the building, I decided to do a video on it. There are a lot of things in modeling that we use exactly as intended. Tools, for example. I use these sprue cutters to cut parts off of sprues and to trim nubs off of plastic pieces and pretty much nothing else. Although my friend Greg swears by these as hangnail trimmers, so your mileage may vary. But besides tools, for most other things I come across in life, it's a different story. Most modelers I know are always on the lookout for ways to repurpose common, inexpensive items in their modeling, and I'm no exception. Whenever something arrives here that's in an interesting shape, I'm always wondering if there's something I can use it for in my modeling. I never throw away bits of packaging without giving them a look and considering what they may look like in my miniature world. Lego may be one of those things that you think you'd only use for its intended purpose, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Most households, especially those with children, have had Lego in them at one time or another. In fact, according to Nathan Sawaya, the author of The Art of the Brick, the Lego company has made 400 billion Lego elements, or roughly 62 bricks for every person on the planet. More than 400 million people around the world have played with Lego blocks, and that seems like a low estimate to me, if I'm honest. The number of Lego bricks sold in 1 year would circle the globe 5 times. And according to an article in Businessweek in 2006, Lego could be considered the world's #1 tire manufacturer, producing about 306 million tiny rubber tires every year. All those figures were as of 2012, so those numbers have only increased. The point is that Lego is pretty common, so it should be relatively easy and inexpensive to get your hands on some. So let's get into how we can use it in our modeling. I use Lego to brace buildings of all shapes and sizes. Virtually every structure I make uses at least one kind of shape to brace the corners, because the Lego block surfaces are perfectly flat and the corners are perfectly square. I particularly like the 1x1 pieces of varying heights for inside corners, especially in small buildings. You can use large bricks as well, especially in places where people are unlikely to see inside the building. I like these corner pieces for outside corners, although I do use them for inside corners as well. I do a lot of kit bashing, which means that a lot of the outside corners that I have aren't meant to be that way, so I need something that's going to have a lot of surface area to take glue, and these do provide lots of surface area for gluing. Again, they're perfectly straight and square. Now, you can buy braces from modeling companies like City Classics, but those come out to about 50 cents a piece, maybe 40 cents if you find them on sale. The Lego corner tiles are 7 cents each, and the blocks are 17 cents each when you buy them from the Lego website, so much cheaper, and more on how to do that in a moment. Now, I also use Lego pieces to strengthen lateral joints. In these cases, I favor the longer 1x4, 1x6, and 1x8 pieces. Another benefit of using these is that they're plastic, so they work very well with the plastic solvent cements that I prefer for attaching parts. Referring again to the video for building Cambridge Iron and Metal, I talked about how I used Lego blocks to build the columns that hold up the 2 fake walls in the back. Using solvent cement, I was able to attach a brick to the long styrene beams that I used, and then I used other bricks to build up the column to the appropriate height. Later, when I found out that cars were just clipping that column, I was able to adjust them immediately, and it was as simple as putting the Lego bricks together in a slightly different configuration. Much, much easier than trying to rework something made out of a styrene strip. I've seen many articles and videos where people use a styrene foundation or pieces of styrene strip glued to a foundation to keep structures in place on the layout and to allow you to easily put a removed structure back in its exact location on the layout easily. You can also use Lego blocks to do this. I've done it in 2 different ways. For the Penmary yard office structure, I use 2x2 Lego blocks to brace the corners. I then used the L-shaped blocks that I showed you before, glued to the foundation styrene, to create guides for putting the structure back in place so that it goes in quickly and is perfectly aligned. For the GM plant, I had a different problem. The combination of the size of the structure and imperfections in my drywalled interior wall meant that the side of the building where cars entered wouldn't stay butted up against my layout room wall, and it was causing cars to scrape against the sides of the delivery doors. So I needed a way to keep the building in place, and since the surface of my layout is made from ceiling tiles, simply gluing something to the layout surface wasn't going to hold up over time. To make sure it would stay in place, I glued a Lego block to the frame of the structure. I then drilled a hole in another Lego block, which I then attached to the layout by drilling a hole through to the bottom of the layout benchwork and inserting a rod through the Lego block, down through the structure of the benchwork and fastening it with a nut. This holds the base perfectly in place. I then used a third block to lock those two bricks together. With this method, I can remove the building as needed, replace it back exactly where it's supposed to be, and make sure it stays pushed up against the wall at all times. From time to time, I like to cast my own parts. The first step of this process is to create a mold, and to create that mold, you need to have a box to pour the two-part rubber into for it to set up. Most places I've seen talk about making a box out of styrene, but that always seemed like a waste of styrene to me, honestly. Instead, I use Lego blocks to build that box. I can reuse the parts as many times as I need to, and the shapes I can make are extremely flexible. On a piece of styrene sheet, build the box shape to the size and height you need it, seal the bottom edge with Play-Doh or some other modeling clay, pour your rubber, and off you go. While you do have to trim the outside edge of the mold a little bit once it's set up to clean up where the rubber seeps into the cracks of the Lego, I think that's a reasonable trade-off. Thomas Klomoski, a modeler whose work I really admire, has used Lego for a couple of other very creative purposes. He's made some videos which I'll link to below to show how he built them. In the first instance, he uses Lego Technic gear reducers to create a working gate. You use a crank on the fascia to open and close the gate. In the second, he used the same type of gear reducer attached to a knob on a structure roof to make a working loading door. That last one was also featured in the May 2018 issue of Model Railroader magazine. I plan to try both of these, the overhead door for my GM plant, and I'm considering the gate for Cambridge Iron and Metal. I think Lego is a great, relatively inexpensive resource. If you don't have any in your house already, you can go to yard sales and online sites like eBay and find people selling old General sets for relatively cheap. Why are they getting rid of it? Who knows? I've said it before, I can't for the life of me imagine growing out of Lego. I love Lego. Crazy people getting rid of stuff like that. At any rate, their insanity is your opportunity. And to be clear, when it comes to eBay, I'm not talking about buying from the dealers who specialize in Lego. They're geared to the collector and their prices reflect that. I'm talking about a set with a bunch of multicolored blocks of various sizes like this one. You can also buy pieces directly from the Lego website like I mentioned before. Again, if you buy enough to amortize the shipping cost out, it can be a very cost-effective way to go and you get exactly what you want, including specialty pieces like these. I bought a bunch of these in black and white. All this doesn't even count the knockoff brands out there that are even more inexpensive. But I stick with Lego because I know that it's going to be square. As you can see, with a little imagination, you can come up with all kinds of uses for Lego blocks, gears, and other parts on a model railroad. I'm sure there are some other things I've used Lego for in my modeling that I didn't remember to include here, and there are a ton of things I'm sure that I haven't even thought of. So if I come up with any more, maybe there'll be a sequel to this video. So that's all for this episode. I hope you liked this look at how to use Lego to help with your modeling. What do you use Lego for on your layout, if anything? Tell me in the comments below. Also, if you have thoughts, suggestions, or questions, include those there. If you enjoyed this video and think others would too, click on the thumbs up to like it and tell your friends. If you didn't like the video, please let me know why in the comments. All this helps me figure out what you're looking for, helps YouTube figure out who to serve this video up to, and helps my analytics. I'm Joe Parker of the Pixel Depot. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll meet me next time in the train room.